You can go onto the town website, get the agenda for this meeting, and use the Zoom link or the Zoom phone number there to join us as well. Like I said, the meeting is being recorded. We have 3 members present and 1 member, Ms. Reed, virtual this evening. And I believe that's everything we have to say to get started. If all goes according to plan, our interim planner will be joining us, Jasmine Ferranucci, but I don't see her in here yet, but I know there's been some connection issues, so hopefully that clears up. Okay, if we're all set with that, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we get going, Amanda, can we get you to shout out to us just to make sure that the microphone and everything is working tonight?
This is me shouting.
Love it. Thank you. And as a note for the public, all votes tonight, since the members of the board are hybrid, all votes will be by roll call. Okay. First up, public comment. If you have a comment about upcoming public hearing, it can wait till the public hearing. But if you have other public comment, this is a great time. Seeing none, great. And I do see Jasmine is with us. Jasmine, glad you could join us tonight. Thank you. Jasmine's on. I look back at the back of the room, but that's because her name is on Zoom. And that's where our screen is. We had people turning around to go, oh, and realizing there's no one there. Great. Okay. So chair and planners reports, really. I have a few things to go over as chair. One is letting us know that Logan O'Connell, our admin assistant, is leaving us, but you might have heard me say that before because we thought he was going to go to the select board. He is, due to a change in offers, and he is joining, okay. He is joining OpenGov, which conveniently is also a software platform we use heavily within the town, and we're continuing to invest time into to make applications online easier and more accessible, and as well as make it easier for the public to get all the versions of site plans and everything else that have come through over time. So a loss for the town, but a win for OpenGov, and that kind of wraps around to at least a little bit of a win for us too again. Logan, you've been with us over a year, right?
Yep, just over a year.
Just over a year. Thank you very much for your help, my friend.
Thank you.
In addition, we, as a board, we currently have 4 members. We do not have a 5th. Since our 5th, Glenn McLeod, who's in the audience tonight, was elected to the select board. It is my understanding that a talent bank form has been received by Town Hall from a citizen of the town that those who are planning board fans may know. Adam Burney, the previous planner of the town, has expressed a willingness, if it's to desire the select board and the planning board, to be appointed to this to the 5th planning board role for a period, so the board can be full and we can. A 5-member board is so much easier to navigate for a variety of reasons. And board, we can. I know the select board is going to be looking for us to have a joint meeting with them next Tuesday. We can do a little scheduling discussion after the meeting's over. Because we're allowed to do that. That's not deliberation, so we don't have to take people's time tonight. We had 2 successful public information gathering and kind of, as well, both sharing information and gathering opinions about the MBTA communities options before the town, one of which was recorded and is on YouTube, thanks to our friends at PAC. The other of which I can summarize for the board, but is very much going to be the same as the first one in terms of overall opinions that were expressed. For those who are joining us tonight for MBTA Communities, we do have other business we do have to get to first, so we will be doing that. And I also just want to let the board know that Jen did do some research, our town manager, and it looks like this was a surprise to everyone, I believe, everyone involved. It looks like we can change quorum for the Master Plan Steering Committee.
Okay.
So that is on our agenda tonight, as we discussed last time, and stayed because we can actually do it.
Wonderful.
It would be harder for something like a board that takes public hearings, but since it is not, and since it is a board that is solely under our, or committee rather, that's under our purview, we have the ability to adjust quorum. And it does not have to be at 50%, or over 50%. We can set it as we deem appropriate.
Wonderful.
That's everything from me. Jasmine, I will hand it to you for planner's report. So Jasmine, I see you're unmuted. If you're speaking, you might be hardware muted or something too, but. Okay, we may be having some, I know Jasmine was having some tech issues earlier this evening. We were chatting on the phone as I pulled in. So Jasmine, if you get the ability to speak, just shout over me and we'll loop back to you, no problem. Okay? Great, that's a thumbs up, love it. Okay. Next up would be board reorganization. We did most of our reorganization at our last meeting, but we did not succeed in reorging the chair role. We currently have two candidates nominated, Mr. Allison and myself. Do we have other nominations to go forward? Seeing none, my plan is to hold a single vote. If it is split, we will put it off till next time, as I specified last time would be the plan. Next time, presuming we have all members present. So for the next meeting, we have all members present would be the correct phrase. All right. Okay. With no one else nominated, we have Matthew Allison and Matthew Brenner for chair. Vote is by roll call. You give me, and I will ask for Mr. Allison first, then for myself. Give me an aye or a nay or yes or no, either way, for both candidates, and then we'll have a vote. All right. For Matt Allison for chair, Mr. Allison.
Yes, aye.
Ms. Reed.
Changing my vote to no.
All right. Mr. Wilsner?
No.
And no from myself. All right. That would be for Matthew Brenner for chair, Mr. Allison.
No.
Ms. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Wilsner?
Aye.
And I for myself. That is, oh, my apologies. I'm going to mute that computer, boy howdy. That is a That is a vote in favor that I remain chair, so I'll serve until our next reorganization. All right. Mr. Allison has left the room. If we still have quorum with 3 board members, I will keep this meeting moving forward. If he comes back in the room, we'll continue with him as well. Nothing really changes because either way we need 3 votes in favor. And do we have any special permits tonight?
No.
Okay, great. Then we're fine. Special permits require a 4-vote supermajority. So we should be okay. Great. Let's start moving through things. We have A&Rs. We have an A&R first for 558 and 560 Goodrich Street. And again, for friends who might be, I think it's still the same crowd, but friends who might be joining us later, watching us on TV late, MBTA Communities is after our public hearings because there's paid professionals and we don't want to cost our applicants excess money to just sit here with other discussions happening. We'll get there as quickly as we can.
For the record, Chris Anderson, Hanning Engineering, here for a A&R plan for 560 and 558 Goodrich Street. The board might remember this from a few months ago when we were before you for a common drive. It's the intent that this plan effectively establish the originally proposed lot lines to become lot lines, if you will. Effectively, we're creating an additional lot and redistribution of certain parcels to the other 2 parent lots in order to accommodate the zoning regulations, as well as creating an additional parcel E, which would be used more for a agricultural use, if you will, for one of the main properties. With that being said, we are providing full frontage requirements for Lot 2 with the required upland area. Lots 1NA and Lot 1A are both considered reduced frontage with sufficient lot area requirements. Lot 1A, which is the 558 property, is approximately 8.4 acres, and the Lot 1N-A has approximately 86 acres, so sufficient upland area and lot area requirements. That being said, if there's any questions from the board, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
So I'll explain this for Jasmine, our interim planner, as well for those in the audience who may not have seen us do an A&R. We haven't had one in a good few meetings. You may hear me ask a couple questions that are not covered directly under A&R. The board does not take those answers into account in terms of whether or not we endorse the A&R. We ask these questions, and we have them on our application explicitly because in the past we've had issues where applicants have accidentally created problems for themselves. So we ask a couple questions just so the applicant has their own information. Now, there's people we see 1,000 times in front of us. I know it's going to go smoothly, but we do it every time to be thorough. Did you get a response? Did you get a response from the Board of Health?
So we did get a comment from the Board of Health relative to an inspection of the existing facilities at the 2 properties. When you look into the zone or the wetlands or Title V, if you will, it may require an inspection. So in this instance, we would 100% agree that you would need to do a system inspection if we were creating 2 1-acre lots out of 2 or two 1 acre lots out of a 2 acre lot. But with the fact that we're creating such large properties, there's ample space to get an additional system if in the eventuality that their existing systems fail a Title V inspection.
Okay, great. And again, I appreciate that extra data. That just helps me understand everything that's going on anyway. But you could say, they told me it doesn't work and I don't care, and by law, we have to say, okay. So, great, and there is frontage. I didn't get a chance to look at the topos yet. I don't know if anyone else has, just to make sure. Wait, I've seen these topos before for the other plans, though, so, yeah. No, okay, I'm familiar with these lots, yeah. To me, this looks straightforward, but I did have one question. I'm looking at the site plan, and I don't know are you cutting off, are you cutting off the corner of a building or it looks like there's an outbuilding or something right at the lot line, or am I misunderstanding that?
So that's lot 1A you're looking at?
Yes.
Yes. So that's an existing garage / barn thing.
Yep.
That's on the existing property at 560, but it's utilized by 558. So what we're creating is what's considered parcel B, which would be conveyed to lot 1A, so that structure becomes onto that lot.
I misunderstood the way that was going. Thank you. Perfect. That makes sense. Okay, do we have questions from the board? Hearing none. Jasmine, Jasmine, I'm going to let you know that I love being interrupted. This is our first time working together in a meeting. So for the love of God, if I'm saying something and you're like, I don't think that's right, or Matt, wait a minute, or here's something you want to know, unmute and interrupt me, please. It works easier.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me
Yes,
now?
we can.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Do you have any input we need on this?
No, it seemed to me all of the requirements for the A&R, and I do sincerely appreciate your disclosure at the beginning about your questions.
Yep, no, you're well. It catches planners who work with us off guard, and I get why. But it's purely to protect the applicant. They could say we don't care, fine. All right, great. In that case, I would look for a motion from the board, such as to approve the A&R to endorse, thank you. To endorse the A&R for 558 and 560 Goodrich Street, as per the plan of record.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in?
Roll call vote.
Yep, that's what I'm going to say. All in favor, Ms. Reed?
Aye.
I'm going to keep saying all in favor, even though it's a roll call vote, because I'm a creature of habit. They can say nay, whatever. I know what I am. Mr. Wilsner?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. Perfect.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the next one, so.
Okay. Next is 60 Cross Road.
Again, for the record, Chris Anderson with Hanning Engineering. Here for the separation of two lots from an existing parent lot at number 60 Cross Road. We're designating lot 12A being the new additional lot, if you will. This is located in the RB, so it requires 80,000 square feet of lot area with a frontage of 100 feet. Lot 12A has about a little bit more than 3 acres and well over 100 feet of frontage. Lot 12B is the existing house itself, and again, that meets the area requirement. It's just shy of 3 acres with plenty of frontage, and we provided the applicable front and side yard setbacks for that existing structure as well.
Great. And you talked to the board, you got a response from the board. Well, you said this was sent to the Board of Health and...
Yeah, so this was a previous A&R that we're making a change to for the property line.
Okay.
It's on sewer. So there's no septic and well, and their wells are pre-established.
Super, great. I see plenty of frontage. Questions from the board?
None from myself.
Ms. Farinacci, do you have any additional input for us?
No, it's met all the requirements.
Love it. All right, I would then look for a motion such as to endorse the A&R for 60 Cross Road as per the plan of record.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. I'll say it correctly this time, once. Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Wilsmer?
Aye.
And I for myself.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So next up on our agenda is a decision for 443 West Townsend Road for the special permit for the common driveway. But this, we already voted on this, correct?
Correct. This was voted on last meeting. The decision that would be before you tonight is reviewing the written up legalese and signing it if it accurately reflects your vote.
Okay, board, I'm going to punt this to after our MBTA communities, after our board discussion section, because that way we don't need to keep people waiting for it while we review papers. So I will just move that to later in the meeting. And that means next up would be, you know what? No, that was already after the public hearings, my bad. I'm still going to move it to after the MBTA community discussions. Public hearings. First up, we have 100 Townsend Harbor Road, stormwater management permit.
Now, my first question, we had a member leave. How does that affect your voting as far as quorums? It's my understanding that when you have a quorum,
We should still be able to vote just fine.
but the quoting, now that there's 3 members present, a quorum is 2.
No, because the quorum is based off of the board set capacity, so our quorum is always 3.
Even if what's present.
Yes,
Are you sure about that?
I am 100% sure about that.
Okay.
So,
And again, remember, this isn't a special permit. When it's a special permit, that's...
no, if it was a special permit, our quorum would be 4.
Correct.
And I would highly encourage you to continue it in that instance because you would not be able to we couldn't hold a vote tonight. But we can hold a vote with 3 members. Let me just make sure. Logan, I'm going to turn to you. Ms. Reed, Mr. Wilsner, and I have all been present for all instances of this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep, great. So there's no issues. We are capable of holding a vote tonight. If you wish to continue till there's more board members present, that is certainly that's your prerogative. Just let me know and say the word.
Okay.
I mean, to act, yeah, no, so there could be a vote to, yeah, no, we're fine.
It's just the legality, and now that you have your planners online, that's why I just wanted to make sure that she chimes in and confirms that.
Oh, absolutely. For a site plan, absolutely. 3 members is sufficient for a 5-member board.
But for a positive vote, is it 2 or is it 3?
It's 3.
Okay, so it's,
Yep. So, okay. Have we had new documentation come in on this?
There was Graves' response to, so there was a couple pieces of new documentation.
Okay.
If you want, I can quickly, I know what it is. There was 2 conditions that we requested at the last meeting, and Mr. Allison said, if we're continuing this, you might as well just make the changes. Because if you could have voted at the last meeting,
Yes.
we would have put the conditions. So he's like, all right, if you're coming back, make the changes. So we made those 2 changes with regarding to the erosion control and adding some spot grades for clarification for the flow pass. So we've done that, and that's been reviewed by Graves.
Okay. I know another reason we wanted to wait until tonight is because we're up against those classic words of art, maximum extent practicable. And what does that mean? And specifically, because this is a residential, an application for a residential build, the state does not require that the applicant in every area perfectly meet all the aspects of stormwater. They are required to do so in some areas to the maximum extent practicable. Now, what will happen is our review engineer from Graves Engineering will generally look at it and say, okay, this doesn't quite meet the state requirements, but all it has to do, it doesn't have to do that, it has to be done to the maximum extent practicable. And generally speaking, the review engineer does not offer a hard set opinion on does this meet the maximum extent practicable. Understood. That's where we typically would turn to our planner, and one of the reasons I wanted us to wait for tonight is I wanted us to be able to have a planner, Ms. Farinacci here, sorry, Farinacci, I apologize, Jasmine, who has significant experience in stormwater. So that's good for us. So, Jasmine, in the areas
Yeah.
that this application doesn't quite hit the state standards, does it, in your professional opinion, seem to be, is it at that maximum extent practicable for this development, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, especially comparable to other communities for residential projects. This is the extent that we would expect to see for this type of infiltration. We would never, the only other next step would be to install, either detention basins or, stormwater systems, and that's just not something that you impose on a residential project.
All right. So we are, it seems that we have that question answered. Has there been, I'm going to turn for public comment as well, but has there been any other public comments submitted?
No.
Okay, great.
And I did submit to the board.
Yep.
Response letter.
And what is that titled in our,
That would be, let me grab it. I believe it's going to say,
response to Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated comments? Is that it?
yeah, that's the one to those specific comments, and there's also a response to the peer review from Graves.
Oh, okay, great. I see response to peer review number 1.
Yep.
Okay, great. I see there's 2 versions. Having all that in front of us. Great. We have your responses. Is there anything you want to highlight or call out for us at this time? We can just read them through as well, however you want to handle that. And then I'll
I
turn
just
for
out of the, from a time perspective,
Yep.
it's rather lengthy, and I don't know if the board, if all the members had had a chance to read through it and understand, and I was going to put it, if the board had questions to my responses. any specific technicality.
Okay, no, I think that's great. The board will give any questions then. I am going to give a moment. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn for public comment. And this is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on the project? Please, you're going to come on up to the microphone. You'll share your name, your address, and whatever you want to say.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Carl Strathmeyer, 39 Valley Road. I am speaking tonight, as I was on the 9th, on behalf of the Board of Directors of Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated, who owns Hickory Hills Lake. They in turn advocate for the interests of the more than 500 residents who live on the lake, all of whom have an interest in the quality of the lake water and the quality of the water flowing into it from the watershed. So tonight I have a question about the concept that you had mentioned there, which is the maximum extent practicable. And my question has to do with how challenging must a site be before maximum extent practicable is not sufficient to protect the interests of downstream property holders and downstream waterways. In this particular instance, we have a parcel that's already shedding a significant amount of storm water. It's going into town catch basins, which, as Mr. Allison pointed out during the last session of the hearing, is not treated very well. It's dumped into a ravine, eventually goes into a wetland, into the lake. This project proposal, the predictions are that the total amount of stormwater shed by the site will remain the same. However, the location or direction of the stormwater will change. And in fact, the drainage path, which is going to get the most increase, leads directly into a wetland. And it's a wetland shared by this parcel and an abutter to the south. The increase is not insignificant. It's like 36 or 37% under any of the various storm degrees, according to the applicant's engineering calculations. And I'm wondering whether, in a site such as this, whether allowing an increase of that kind into a wetland qualifies as a maximum extent practicable. I don't see any other concrete mechanisms, strategies, constructs, details in the project plan that really addresses stormwater control. I know Lunenburg as a town, we know we have a stormwater issue. That's why we have a stormwater committee, right? We know that town waterways are polluted because of stormwater runoff from roads and such things. And if we're going to make that situation any better, then we would want any construction project, we would want that construction project to leave the situation at least a little better than the prior, the existing current conditions. So my question is the applicability or how you apply this concept of maximum extent practicable. If the site is so difficult that there really isn't anything practicable, does that mean that the applicants, as of right, get their waivers? Or does this board have some discretion to say, wait a minute, Mr. Chairman, according to your introduction, you said, well, this rule is really intended for a residential development where they're really trying to do pretty much everything right, and there's a couple details that are going to be unreasonably burdensome, right? I have no problem with that, but my question is with respect to a site as difficult as this, what must you achieve, or if nothing is practicable to achieve, does that mean as of right I get to develop what I want to develop? A second part of that question really is, assuming this board considers that maximum extent practicable rule, does the board take into account the potential harm to downstream property owners? Or if not, if it's purely a decision based in this one parcel, what is the recourse of downstream property owners? Do they have to wait for actual harm to occur and then go through tort law processes or something? Or is that potential downstream harm something that this board would take into account in your discretion as you choose whether to grant the waivers or add conditions to them? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I want to answer a couple aspects of it, and Tim, Amanda, feel free to chime in, explain if you feel differently. Sure. But this is going to be mostly about how we have to work as a planning board, because I want to set, often I need to make sure we're all on the same page, because there are things we can do and a whole bunch we can't. And most applications that come before a planning board, including this planning board, are more or less very complex checklists. There's a lot of by right uses, and because they're by right, we are required to look and see, does the applicant meet certain requirements? Now, sometimes those requirements are very concrete. The A&Rs you saw earlier, it's funny, we have to endorse an A&R, which is an approval not required. Massachusetts is its own thing. But sometimes those requirements are very concrete. Sometimes there's terms of art, like maximum extent practical being the one we're hearing a lot right now. Generally speaking, we are pretty tightly limited what we can do in those situations. Stormwater management permits are one of them. When there's a special permit in front of us, a special permit gives a board a lot more flexibility to set requirements, and that's why developers don't like special permits, because they're less certain. And because you're not really guaranteed your land use rights. So we're limited in what we can and can't do. For example, and the one I'll call out because it's relevant is the idea of it would be ideal if after the construction things were a little better. Now, certainly would be ideal. Generally speaking, we're not allowed to hold to that. That isn't what the state law says. State law is very clear, and regulations are clear. They're doing what they can to not make it worse, but we can't expect them to make it better, broadly speaking. Now, Jasmine, this is where I'm going to turn to you, because we have some questions about what does maximum extent practicable mean in this specific circumstance. We have some questions about if this does negatively impact the lake. I'm not sure how that could be traced, just being frank, but could you educate us some more on this aspect of the law so that hopefully we as a board and the residents here can understand what's going on?
Absolutely. So as far as being able to take any recourse after a decision is written or after a decision is made, if in theory this were approved and the project went forward and it was constructed and you found that there was a massive increase in contamination or debris or somehow volume into the lake, that would be something that you could document and then have to bring an enforcement order forward and have them rectify the issue in that instance. However, the site exists. So the runoff on the site is already going into the water as it is. So you're going to create a natural infiltration system via the rain garden to infiltrate any debris coming off of the site that's going to run into the water from the construction. And then there have been specific topographical changes that have been made to direct the water specifically to where it needs to be. But the construction of this isn't going to add such significant water, much more water than it is already. Do you know what I'm saying? There's going to be impervious surface that it's going to be running off from that you want to infiltrate, which is why you have the rain garden, but it wouldn't be creating much more water when you look at it at that point.
All right.
For the engineers. I mean, I go by their numbers, but if they say the numbers check out, then I have to trust that they know what they're doing when it comes to the math, because that's what they do best.
And that's where we hire the review engineer as well. And that's where we have the planner to help us with the planning, legal and pseudo-legal side. We have the engineer to make sure that the numbers are correct. All right, thank you. So is there other public comment tonight? If you have a follow-up, come on up, that's fine.
Again, Carl Strathmeyer, 39 Valley Road, speaking for the Board of Directors of Hickory Hills Landowners. I heard a mention just now of a rain garden, which I hadn't seen on the prints. Maybe I missed it. I thought last time there was some discussion of couldn't do anything like that because the water table's so high, it wouldn't be effective. Is there now a rain garden in the plan?
No.
There is no rain garden on the plan.
No, I think I believe it was mentioned as
As a
an
hypothetical?
example of the types of things not
Yeah.
present on this.
Okay,
For the reason you cited.
thank you. Just a clarification.
Nope.
I thought I'd missed it.
Fair point. Fair question, thank you.
Shall I, just for the benefit of the association, read through the letter?
I have no problem with that, certainly.
For his benefit. Do I need to repeat? I'm not going to repeat his initial comment.
I am fine with that, that's
If you
A-OK.
want, the standing was the beginning. Our response, Lunenburg Stormwater Management Bylaw, Section 204-1, F2, states that the standards of the bylaw shall meet the Massachusetts Stormwater Policy. These standards are further codified in the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. The intent implementation of standards are further detailed in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, which contains several volumes. Hereafter, I'm referring to them as the handbook, noting the volume, number, where appropriate. In the Wetlands Protection Act, CMR 1004, and the handbook, Volume 1, Chapter 1, states low-impact development, as defined, techniques meant to infiltrate stormwater management systems that are modeled after natural features. Low-impact development techniques manage rainfall at the source, uniformly distributing, decentralizing micro-scale controls. Low-impact development techniques use small, cost-effective landscape features located on the lot level. The handbook specifications have specified parameters for those design and construction of structural stormwater best management practices to meet the identified parameters. Structural BMP, such as rain gardens, sediment forebays, infiltration, etc., have been created to mimic natural hydraulic features when stormwater has been concentrated versus being decentralized, as we are doing. The proposed site layout utilizes the decentralizing approach of LID by not concentrating stormwater, allowing it to flow freely from the developed areas across existing natural features via grading and site layout. That site layout being really driven by the on-site septic system and lot development. The handbook specifications to the structural BMPs and their effectiveness assume specific dimensions and offsets to mimic the various natural features. The stormwater report identifies the structural BMP specifications and why they are not being utilized for clarification to the planning board. And again, it says I shall follow the handbook. Your bylaw states it. I cannot follow the handbook as it states, based on various reasons which were identified in the stormwater report. DCJS LLC acknowledge that the parcel is located within the 1,356-acre watershed of Hickory Lake. The locust property contains 9.15 acres and comprises only 0.6% of the total watershed of Hickory Hills Lake. The watershed is located within the town of Lunenburg and Townsend. The watershed includes several hundred additional property owners that are not members of HHLI, which is Hickory Hills Land Incorporated, including the locust property. The watershed contains over 800 structures and approximately 7.2 miles of paved roadway, not including the individual paved driveways to the structures and their pertinent parking areas to these structures. Many of these structures predate current building code requirements and are located on properties that predate current zoning requirements. Many of these properties are considerably smaller with greater impervious coverages than the proposed project. Many of these structures and properties are located along the shoreline of Hickory Hills Lake within 50 feet of jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. The project contains 5 single-family homes. Their pertinent 12-foot wide driveways. Combining all the driveway lengths, we're at 830 feet. The project proposes to alter 2.4 acres, 26% of the 9.15 acres of property. The project meets the requirements of the current zoning bylaws for the Residence A zoning district. The closest portion of the project is located over 600 feet from the shore of Hickory Hills, separated from it by 2 public ways and dozens of other properties. The closest proposed alteration to wetlands is 75 feet for the existing footing drain for Lot 5. The existing wetlands on the site and its buffer zones, which include the 30-foot no alteration zone, the 50-foot no structure zone, further restricts 2.53 acres of the property, 27.6%. Alterations within these zones would require additional review from the Conservation Commission. We've positioned the property, the development, out of these jurisdictional areas, therefore limiting 27%. The hydrologic connection.
Okay, I'm actually, before we go into hydrologic connection, to save us some time, because this is submitted, as you said, the board has had a chance to review it.
Okay, I just
No, and it is in the public record.
Okay.
So what I do want to do is, because going through this is going to take a lot of time.
And we were here for a while last time, so.
What I do want to do is turn to the board, because we have had a chance to review this letter before the meeting. If we want the applicant to go through the entire letter, we certainly can. But you've also had a chance to review it and may already be comfortable with the explanation, since ultimately we're the ones who have to vote, and our vote is, again, limited by law, what we look at. I'm going to turn to you. Would you like the applicant to go through the whole letter, or are you comfortable with the contents at this time?
I am comfortable with the contents
Okay.
that exist at the moment.
Ms. Reed?
I agree. I'm comfortable with the contents as well. I also feel like our interim land use director doesn't find any issue with it. So she would kind of be the subject matter expert. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm fine without needing to go for it.
Great.
And again, just for the benefit of the audience, I didn't want to circumvent, but it is on open.gov, so I suppose everyone can look at it. Is that correct?
Yes, this is on OpenGov.
And this has been there for a week.
Yep, it is part of the public record of this hearing. The entire response was there, and I do want to let people know, as you'll get from what they've already said, the applicant's response is thorough and thoughtful, and kindly in the document itself, color-coded to help you really pick out the where responses go and everything. Okay, do we have any other public comment before the board decides if we're going to have more questions or if we'll close the hearing? Seeing none, I'll turn to the board. Do we have any more questions at this time, or are we good to close the public hearing?
I don't have any remaining questions.
I agree.
Okay, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing then for 100 Townsend Harbor Road, stormwater management permit.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Wilsner?
Aye.
An aye from myself. Okay, public hearing is closed. You're welcome to take a seat, and now we're going to chat. All right. I'll take your thoughts, but again, my big outstanding question was, is this meeting the maximum extent practicable? We have an expert saying yes. I happen to personally agree that in the scheme of changes, this is minimal, and in addition, even if it weren't, our hands are held by the law. Any other, but you're welcome to disagree with me as always.
I continue to be frustrated by what our requirements are when it comes to stormwater and how much I feel like it doesn't measure up to what we actually need. But again, as you mentioned, it has checked all the boxes that we legally require it to be checked, and that is where it is.
And and I've voiced this before too. I don't think were you on the board when we redid okay. Were you, Amanda? I don't remember.
I might have been.
Okay, early on. When we redid the stormwater, the town stormwater bylaw, we made it stricter than the state requirements in a number of ways as an intentional choice to try to benefit the town, to protect things in the town. Many municipalities, if you have, they don't really do stormwater for residential. Everything, when you say something like that, is an oversimplification. We've done our best to protect. That said, I know we also voted on it, and then there was the meeting that I had to pause it so we could go look and see if my car was floating away, because we were having a meeting when Leominster washed out, and there was that whole debacle. So we've done our best and continue to do our best to tie our bylaws to requirements so that as the situation changes, they're easier to update or automatically update. Stormwater is tricky. We have a lot more protections than many other towns. There may be room for improvement. Regardless, we are where we are, and in one person's opinion, the applicant's done a heck of a job in terms of, for everything they can't do on the property, still making an aggressively decent stormwater infiltration setup with the high groundwater and everything else. In Massachusetts, you can't really get in the way of residential development. That's the state. All right. If there's no further questions, I would look for a motion. I'm going to suggest a motion, but you may move differently. First of all, let's talk for a second. Do we have anything beyond our standard conditions we think we would need to apply here?
Not to my knowledge.
The applicant put those other items into the plan, so. All right, I would look for a motion, for example, to approve the stormwater management permit for 100 Townsend Harbor Road with all standard conditions. I'm going to first, Jasmine, is that going to be a fair motion?
Yes, I believe so. My only concern would be maybe adding a condition upon if you can somehow find and sincerely prove that the runoff from the site is becoming a detriment to the waterway, that the applicant will be responsible to redesign or remedy the situation.
I'm not necessarily, how would that work? Like, what does that, what, because we
So
haven't had
there's a fear of contamination, right? So I think that's the main concern is the health of the waterway, right?
It is. I'm just, how would that be? I'm trying to, because I don't think we've done a condition like that in the past. I'm not inherently opposed, but
okay.
I'm trying to think of what that would look like in our condition that would translate to what it would look like on the ground for that to be an enforceable condition, especially where we're looking at a comparatively small amount, a very small percentage of the overall watershed for the lake.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, especially since there's on a baseline. There have been very rare instances in Lancaster where a pond community, somebody did do some construction on a single family and they did end up with some silt runoff into the nearby watershed. And, they just had to install some silt fence and things of that nature. But at that point, I suppose DEP would probably just be the ones to remedy that. So I think you actually would be in the clear on that, to not condition it, that DEP would still have the power to remedy if something were to go awry.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
if we wanted to go that way, maybe it would be if there is a demonstrable, quantitative, no, I don't know how to word that effectively for this.
Yeah, because if there's no baseline for what either the total suspended solids are or what the annual runoff, silt runoff from the site is, any onlooker who hadn't paid particularly close attention to the site now might notice these things and perceive them as increases, but maybe they just weren't noticed previously.
Mm-hmm. And that's the scientist in me is like, there's a lot of confounding variables.
Yes.
Because there could be work being done in Townsend that we have no knowledge of that could impact it. And, I mean, no knowledge without deep-seated research. It wouldn't have any way of knowing what did it. I think personally I'm comfortable sticking with standard conditions. But Tim, Amanda, if you feel differently, I think there's probably a way to hash this out if you'd like to have that in there.
It does seem there's merit to it, but again, I'm in the same position that I'm not sure how exactly we would go about doing that.
Amanda, what are your thoughts?
I'd agree. I'm not quite sure how you would find that evidence. Like if a concerned citizen would go to the applicant and say, "Hey, this is what's happening." I'm not quite sure how they could quantify what's being done to the lake if the water is coming from multiple points. So it's, it would make sense if, they could say, "Hey, look, this is 100 yards away or however far it is from the site, and we know it's coming from the site," but I'm not sure if that would make more sense to put something in there that, says within the immediate area rather than the entire lake. But I don't know how you can justify that in conditions. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with going without that.
Okay.
But that's just my 2 cents.
It sounds like we're in agreement of, sounds good in theory, in practice, there doesn't seem to quite be a way to get there. Maybe with months to chew it over, we will come up with something for the future, and I don't think that's bad, but we have an application before us tonight. So I would look for a motion. You may move differently, certainly, but the example I will give would be to approve the stormwater management permit for 100 Townsend Harbor Road with all standard conditions.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Wilsmer?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Yes.
What's your standard procedure now? You issue a written...
So what will happen now is between now and the next meeting, Ms. Farinacci is going to write a decision that reflects what we've talked about here. It will come before us at the next meeting to sign. Now, you can, and then it gets submitted, yada, yada. I believe, Jasmine, is this a case where the applicant can proceed at their own peril? Because we voted, we just don't have the words in front of them.
Correct.
Okay. So that you are at proceed. So what will happen is at our next meeting, we will have a chance to review the decision, put our John and Jane Hancocks on it. But we've already voted. You're set. You can proceed at your own peril, but you don't have that written decision spelling everything out 100%. Now, we can give it to you ahead of time, but there's always the chance that when Jasmine gives it to us, we as the board look at it and go, that wasn't what we said. Doesn't seem likely to me in this scenario, but it's your peril, not my peril. So it doesn't really matter what I think. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time.
Would they like it sent as a draft? Just curious.
Oh, they said sure.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. Okay, and next up, I see we have 260 Falula Road, modification to stormwater management permit, site plan approval.
I don't see any documents for this on OpenGov. Doesn't matter. I'm snatching Mr. Allison's physical copies.
Is there under public hearings, you've got
I've got
100?
the OpenGov page. It's just files.
Oh, okay, never mind. I hadn't gotten that far yet. My bad.
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
have a
blank
ch-
for me
I
too.
didn't have a chance to pre-look. Yeah.
Shit.
You are now nameless.
Thank you very much.
All right. While Logan gets that squared away, I'll still have us move forward. This is a modification. I don't remember, we haven't seen this before, have we seen this modification already? I need the reminder.
No, so this is the first hearing for the modification.
So we need to open this hearing.
Sir.
All right, great. But that means we need Logan to put the document in so Amanda or one of us can read it.
Yep, let me,
Yep. Thank you for your patience, everyone at home. Life in the planning office is a lot right now.
all right, those should be publicly viewable now. If you refresh the page on OpenGov, let me know if it ends up being visible.
Got
File
it.
6.
Beautiful.
Refresh.
Okay. Amanda, do you want to read or do you want one of us to read tonight?
I can read. Let me see. There's two versions of the legal ad?
Yep, I would recommend the one that does not start with the Outlook email, pure procedural thing. A smaller one with all the legally required details got sent to the Sentinel and Enterprise instead of the Ledger, just so
So-
that this could make this meeting.
Open the one that says to abutters.
Okay, and then I'll just put today's date in there because there's no date listed on that one.
It should have 6/23 on it.
It
It's in
says,
the,
it says PUBH_date. So it looks like it just wasn't on the
It didn't
second
load
one.
there, but it's otherwise,
Yeah.
this should be fine, it's otherwise on the document,
Yes.
but yeah.
Okay. The Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on June 23rd, 2025 at 6:05 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass, to hear and review applications for modification to site plan approval and to stormwater management permit pursuant to 250-8.4 and 204-1 of the Code of the Town of Lunenburg by Fitchburg Property Landowner LLC for general reduction in project footprint and size due to presence of unsuitable material. Subject property information, the location is 260 Falula Road, Assessors Map 116, parcel number 1. Owner is Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority at 718 Main Street, Fitchburg, Mass. 01420. You can view materials online at lunenburgma.portal.opengov.com/search with record ID PMOD-25-2 via an email request to the planning office, planning@lunenburgma.gov, or in person at the planning office at 960 Mass Avenue in Lunenburg.
Great.
Alrighty. For the record, Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering, here before you tonight for a site plan modification and stormwater modification for a warehouse distribution facility at what in Lunenburg is considered 260 Falula Road. This project was before the board back in 2022. It was approved at that time as part of the overall project. Since then, we've done some initial review of the underlying soils and found that there's a substantial area of unsuitables, thus our resubmission to the board.
You know, I don't think I've encountered the term unsuitables before in my time on the board. Would you mind explaining what that means here?
Yeah, so in this situation, and this kind of goes, I was about to touch on it in a moment, but
Oh, sure.
this is a previously developed site that's had a plethora of different uses over its history. The property is located in both Fitchburg and Lunenburg. It was once upon a time used as part of the wastewater treatment facility for Fitchburg. It's been utilized as a sand pit for Fitchburg. It's right now kind of a vacant site that unfortunately has become kind of a dumping ground. So pretty much the entire site's been historically developed or impaired or impacted. And what you see today is the remnants of that. It's more opportunistic growth and stuff like that. But as part of that history, there used to be a dumping ground for paper waste material. So if you were to look at the topography of the site right now, there's a large knoll that would appear to be natural in formation towards the northern portion of the property near the Simons property in Fitchburg. That is actually a combination of paper waste and dirt and other stuff. Because of that nature, it's not suitable to build on. It would require extensive excavation and removal, and that's well beyond the scope of any this sort of a project. So because of that material, we're reducing the overall scope and project to account for that. What was originally approved was about a 367,000 square foot structure that extended both within Fitchburg and within Lunenburg, and extended almost the entire length of the property. Due to that unsuitable material, we're proposing to reduce the square footage of the proposed building down to about 183,500 square feet. So it's quite a significant drop in square footage of just straight building. And as part of that overall reduction, we're also reducing the scope of the parking, the impervious areas and whatnot in order to account for that. So all in all, the project experiences a general net decrease in everything. Egress to the property is being maintained at the two original proposed locations, one that's along Airport Road and one along Crawford Street, which for all intents and purposes are the same roadway. They just switch names at a certain point. Both of those roads are located within the city of Fitchburg and not within technically the town of Lunenburg. The town line with Lunenburg and Fitchburg comes to a point along the right-of-way of those two roads. So the impacts to the quote-unquote Lunenburg portion of the development is limited to the construction of a portion of the building as well as the truck loading area. The property is bounded by both the Nashua River to the west as well as the Baker Brook to the east. So we are doing work within the jurisdictional areas of the Wetlands Protection Act. Specific to Lunenburg, the property as it stands right now creates a naturalized berm that effectively hydraulically surface water separates runoff from the development or the existing site straightly to Baker Brook, and we're maintaining that as part of the overall scope of construction. When it comes to impact to the environment or environmental concerns specific to the Wetlands Protection Act, there's a net zero change in that. Stormwater management, we're still proposing to develop it on the site because we do exceed over that 1 acre threshold. The original development called for several underground storage systems and infiltration basins within the town of Lunenburg. As part of the overall redesign, we're proposing to do a single underground storage system in the same location that was originally approved. And we have eliminated one of the detention or infiltration basins that's located within the town because it became redundant. It didn't need to be there because we reduced so much of the flow going from the site. Stormwater flows from the underground storage system, circumnavigate around the entire perimeter of the site, and discharge to two large infiltration basins that will be proposed and constructed along the Nashua River side, which is within the city of Fitchburg. We are still holding a original approved infiltration basin near the entranceway, which has also been kind of shrunk down to accommodate the lesser traffic flows, which we did provide an updated traffic memo as part of our original submittal. Because again, like stormwater, traffic reduced as well, so we were proposing to reduce the widths of the driveways coming in, and there's some additional offsite improvements that are being reviewed with the city of Fitchburg as part of their permitting process. Full disclosure, we are filing with the Fitchburg Planning Board, as well as the Fitchburg Conservation, which we did already get approval for. So just full disclosure, you are one of 4 boards that we are working with in tandem with everybody. So with that being said, the general intent of the project has remained the same. We're just looking for a overall reduction in everything relative to scope and impervious area.
Okay. First of all, just on a personal level, I'm sorry, that stinks.
Yes.
Ooh, I feel for the applicant. This is, it's industrial, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't,
It's in the office industrial district, and the use is a lab by right.
yeah. This is a large project that straddles the Fitchburg-Lunenburg line. I'm just soliloquying for those at home quickly. We did approve it, as was said, a few years ago. And once you have boots on the ground, the situation can change, unfortunately in this case. So, now,
And if
there
there's
is no,
I can.
peer review has not been submitted on this, correct? Or,
At this point, no, it is not.
okay. And there are changes to, I mean, there is an overall reduction. But beyond just a numerical reduction, there are changes to the stormwater system and drainage and everything else. That's my understanding?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll turn to the board, and then I will also open for public comment. And Jasmine, as always, again, love being interrupted with your thoughts, too. I really hate putting more stuff on the applicant, but it's stormwater next to the Nashua. I feel like I feel like we need to do our due diligence and protect with a peer review myself. I don't know how you feel. Amanda, I don't know how you feel.
I'd agree.
To save the applicant a little, I don't think we need actually, Jasmine, I'll ask you. Because the three of us fake planning, because that's what planning boards are, the citizens who listen to planners and then try to figure it out. With a traffic reduction here, for our peer review, could we limit the peer review? We probably do need them to look at, because there are changes for site plan overall.
Relative to the site plan, yes, there are modifications. I will note that Fitchburg is doing a traffic review.
Okay, great. Okay, so I didn't want to put
Nope,
that on you if we didn't have to.
absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But that is being reviewed with the city of Fitchburg.
Love hearing that, and it's a much bigger deal for them than us in this case. All right, so, Jasmine, how much, we kind of default often to saying put $2,000 into what's the name of the account?
53G.
53G, thank you.
Yeah.
In your estimation, would that be the right amount to ask the applicant to put into a 53G account for review on this? Or,
I'm not sure because I don't know who you specifically used for review, but considering that there is existing calculations and it's a reduction in size, I would like to optimistically hope that would be enough.
okay,
I believe we also submitted the base check based on the fee schedule, if you will, as well, I believe. So I think there is a check already with you guys to cover administrative or reviews and stuff.
oh, that's already in that, okay.
I believe it is.
Yeah, yeah, in the past, so the way the fee schedule is currently set up, there's kind of two dual layers. One is administrative and it lists out all the individual items, and then the other, I believe, says project review or something to that effect, and it just duplicates them. In the past, that second layer that says project review hasn't been used. Like, that was separate from payments into a 53G account and setting that up. Just for background info on.
So the applicant, and I know that normally when they come in now, we're requiring that money up front. But this is a review, this is a modification, so I have no clue how that works on our back end. So has the applicant put in money for peer review into does that money exist into a 53G or no?
Not right now, but it's kind of a question of if the board wants to take that $4,000 that was provided under project review according to the fee schedule.
Is that what it's normally used? What is it used for? If that's money that is supposed to be used for something else, we really shouldn't. If that's money that's supposed to be for that.
I really don't have based on what I've seen in the past, and I believe this question has come up with some other applications specifically, those are not used for peer review despite being under the header project review. Now, does that make sense? Is that straightforward? No. Is that the intention of the author of this fee schedule from 2006? I am not sure.
Okay, well, if we haven't, I'm going to keep with the way we have been doing business, because that's the way we've been doing business. And as we've talked about, once the town has a full-time planner, fee schedules and everything are all getting a nice heavy look at, but we're going to wait till we have someone sitting in that role full-time so that we can put together something that's going to work for the long haul. All right, in that case, I would look for a motion such as to authorize the creation of a 53G account for the, or to,
Motion to require payment of $2,000 for the purposes of peer review to be deposited in the 53G account.
So moved.
Second.
moved and seconded. Let's have a quick vote on that. Roll call, Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Wilsner? Aye from myself. Great. Okay, so we'll take care of that. Next, so then also, this is a public hearing, so I do want to offer for public comment. Do we have any public comment for the modification at 260 Falula Road?
Chairman?
Yes, please, Mr. Rogers. Come on up. You know how it works. You've been here one or two times before.
Yeah, it's not my first rodeo. Dave Rogers, 82 Highland Street. I have a couple of questions with specific regard with that substance that will be left on the site and not remediated. I believe the gentleman said that it was put there by the paper companies, I think. But the real question is, who put it there, what is it, and what kind of responsibility will go in perpetuity to that particular piece of property? And I have some other questions, but if we go with
right.
that, that'd be fine.
I'm
Thank you.
going to give the applicant a chance to respond.
Sure.
But I'm also going to say, Ms. Farinacci, you can go first before or after the applicant. This is one of those cases I think we're going to want some clarification on what is and isn't the planning board's responsibility. And then if Mr. Rogers has a concern that doesn't go to us, I always like to tell residents who they should talk to.
Absolutely. I would say, please let Mr. Rogers go first.
No? Okay, so, well, Chris, go ahead. And then-
Yes. So we discovered, or the applicant discovered the unsuitable materials during the geotech process, designing the foundation. At that point, they did throw a red flag and they hired an LSP, a licensed site professional, whose job is exclusively dealing with various wastes of material and stuff like that. A filing was made with DEP, and DEP is involved relative to how to maintain and take care of that paper waste material. So as part of the overall process, the FRA, the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, is maintaining control of the unsuitable portion of the property, with the Fitchburg landowner taking purchase of the remaining parcel. So the responsibility lies with the FRA for the continued use. Based on my conversations with everybody, it's my understanding that the material in its current state is stable. It's not moving, it's not going anywhere. But if it was exposed to the environment, there would be a potential of transport. So it's the understanding that DEP and everybody else has said that as long as it doesn't get touched, it remains in its current state.
All right, so Jasmine, do you have anything to add in terms of, do we have additional duties or to consider as a planning board? Or is the answer here, this is being addressed by other people, it doesn't really factor in for us?
No, the planning board really doesn't have any role in this type of situation, even if it were town-owned land. This is something that the state DEP would have to handle because they're the ones who are qualified to handle contamination, so it's not really our role.
Okay, great. Dave, anything else, please? I just wanted to get, this is one of those situations where there's so many entities.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And therein lies the issue that I'm most concerned with. Many different entities. Who's on first? Who do you look to? Why aren't they doing that? How come this is this way? So that can be very confusing, and it can be very troublesome as well. So I guess my real question is, what happens going forward?
Okay. So I can answer that from the planning board perspective.
Sure.
Okay? From the planning board's perspective, since the land with unusable materials, or whatever technical term it is, I was going to say contaminated land, but that might be a technical term that when I say that means something else. I don't know. For our perspective, we are here at the Lunenburg Planning Board, we're going to look at, basically, we're going to have our engineer review the site plan for the things we normally consider for land use, turning radiuses, runoff,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like the problematic land is under the jurisdiction of, you said, of the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority?
So they're the owners of the property.
Uh-huh.
So they'll be held responsible for it, and it's being reviewed with DEP.
Okay, so as I realized Chris wasn't at the microphone, that it is owned now by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. They're responsible, but DEP are the ones who are in charge. So it sounds like, Mr. Rogers, your questions would be directed either to the FRA or to DEP about that aspect of this property. And they're the ones who are looking into it.
Okay. The question then, from my perspective, goes to the fact that the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority has custody and control of that land. And the real basic question, I guess, from my standpoint, is why is it not a good time to remediate that site right now so that we don't have to worry about this going forward? And if that isn't the case, then what kind of restrictions will be placed on that particular piece of property that will satisfy everybody around? And what kind of exposure, if any, Lunenburg has given that scenario?
It sounds like that is a question I and this board and our planner cannot help you with tonight.
Yeah.
Because it is fully outside of our purview.
Okay.
That's something you will have to direct to the FRA and again, DEP, as well as the people who are in charge of making sure it's handled. We don't have any, that isn't our jurisdiction. We are here, as I say a million times each meeting, we're limited in what we can look at. That isn't what we get to consider.
Okay, please don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah, okay.
But you've indicated a couple of times that if I have a problem, I would have to go do such and such and such and such. I'm Joe Citizen. I just looked at this and I'm interested in what's going on. So what is it that you do?
No, that's a great question. So in this case, we're looking at stormwater management, which is a set of specific criteria that have to be met. And we're looking at site plan approval, which is, again, there's a set of criteria that have to be met in terms of, basically, what we're doing is making sure that for those two things, the applicant is following the law. The contaminated land is, or whatever the term is, isn't what we get to look, like, even, like, if, I mean, because I do care. I say even if I care, I do care. We know that industrial pollution is a big problem in north central Mass. It's been getting better through decades of hard work. It's still an issue. We're lucky in Lunenburg that we are far better off than other communities like Fitchburg on that front, just due to the industrial heritage of those towns. But no matter how important it is, it's just like you can't call a firefighter because someone breaks into your house. not only is it not their job, they're not even equipped to handle it.
Right.
That's, what we're looking at is traffic going to be affected? Is the environment is inappropriate stormwater runoff happening that could affect the environment? When they set up the stormwater systems, are they correctly filing everything to make sure that the records are there so they can be properly maintained? Are the correct materials being used? And that, well, what they say. And then with all that together, we do that initial info. We give the approval on the plans. That then goes to the building commissioner, Brian Gingras for Lunenburg, and his office then makes sure that when it's being built, all of the requirements from the planning board, he's real good about that, I'll tell you that. All the requirements from the planning board and the requirements of the state and the requirements of the town of Lunenburg that aren't what the planning board determined. His office during construction makes sure those are being met.
Okay. Has any discussion taken place relative to the folks that had control of the dumped material, and has there been any discussion relative to what they would do for the remediation of that which is left?
Our office has not had any discussion on that front, correct?
No.
Because that's,
and that's, yeah, far, I would say, more historical.
Yeah.
So probably that might be something that Fitchburg has on their end. And I don't know if any discussion like that has happened with the applicants. But there hasn't been anything between our office and
yeah,
the applicants.
because our office has not had any communication about that. Again, because it's not,
Sure.
it's not our piece of the pie.
Yep.
Now, if you want, I'm happy to reach out to the FRA and say, hey, is there anything we should know about? But I can't imagine any answer they will have that will be yes, but I'm happy to reach out, just to be sure.
Let me just, for the sake of conversation, give you a historical perspective. I was a water commissioner for 40 years. And during that period of time, there was some dumping that happened on Townsend Harbor Road. And I was one of three that negotiated the removal and the remediation of that which was dumped. And in addition to that, we negotiated a situation that the paper companies had to go in and extend the mains so that the water that was going to be servicing that general area of the town would be potable and would pass the litmus test, so-called. And that was done. So I guess I was going to say I was burned once, and I don't mean it that way, but I can see the potential for some misunderstandings. It's not my area of responsibility, and gee, I don't know. So let me just come to the crux of the issue. I think it's important for someone, some entity in the town of Lunenburg to be the point person as it pertains to that which involves the site in total, so that the adjacent property, which is owned by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, who, by the way, are good people, is not confused, and everybody knows what the situation is. So how we do that, I don't know, but it would seem logical to me that to prevent any misunderstandings going forward, that we get all of these ducks in a row so that there won't be any misunderstandings, and we will have a way to go, we being anybody that has concerns about this, go to the cognizant entity and get answers and hopefully walk this situation through. I probably don't need to say this, but I'm going to. There has not been a bigger supporter of land and the use of land and the construction and the utility of land than Dave Rogers. But as we go on, I think you run into these little hiccups, so I just do not want to see the town of Lunenburg in a situation that is not understandable, and I would just like to make sure that we do this correctly. And that's no cast aspersions on this committee or anybody else, but this is kind of a unique situation. So that's what my concern is.
I have a thought, but let me finish typing this note first.
Sure.
before I
Why don't
lose
you
it.
finish typing that note and then we'll think about it.
Okay. So here are my thoughts, take it or leave it.
Sure.
I mean, what this board can do is virtually nothing about what you've discussed. However, I'm also a person who is capable of sitting down and chatting with people and chats with everyone in our town government pretty regularly right now.
Sure.
So what I'm happy to do is, it isn't going to, I don't think it's going to impact anything this board does or can do. But golly, am I at least, for the sake of my own edification, super curious as to the answer to your question. So if you don't mind, I would love to follow up and ask a few people, and then I'm happy to report back at our next meeting.
Okay.
Just what's going on and how that flows in town, for the sake of the public having that information.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. But in addition to that, I think DEP has to come forth and give us some advice and counsel, as they should with the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority as well, and say, at the end of the day, this is how this is going to come down.
I don't have the ability to compel that. I can mention that to whoever in town that would be relevant for, and it's their decision-making then, or their ability to communicate with DEP. I can certainly pass that along for you, though.
Well,
I mean, because again, that's what I can do here.
all right. How is access to this site designed?
What do you mean by that?
How does one get into the land and the proposed building once it's constructed?
I mean, we have a plan before us, but I'll invite Chris up to answer that question.
Speaking to the microphone this time. So access is provided via 2 paved driveways, one right next to the Nashua River, or for lack of a better term, next to the Nashua River, and one that's further to the east, if you will, next to the Tango construction facility. That provides access for the 2 main uses, the employee/passenger vehicle cars, which would be dedicated to the Nashua River side of the entryways, and the exclusively truck entrance would be further to the west. So that truck entrance extends into the property and directly accesses the rear loading dock areas as well as trailer storage. The pedestrian driveway extends into the property, creates a 2-belt loop system around the building. One, the outer loop being for strictly access, and the interior loop being dedicated strictly for parking and access to the building. We provided a secondary connection along the northerly side of the building. This is exclusively only for emergency uses, so if something were to happen on the truck drive, they can get out, go in that direction, and vice versa. Also for fire access. As part of the overall project, we're also providing an access road that would extend off the edge of the pavement driveway into the FRA remaining portion of the land. So if they need to gain access to it, they have the ability to, and we're going to provide cross easements and whatnot like that.
So they would have to have an easement.
Correct.
All right. And would you be kind enough to explain to me where the FRA land is?
So, I'll speak loud for this one. So the FRA property
Yeah.
will be cut off right here and will loop itself around the outside of the proposed infiltration basins.
And what about the back area, sir?
That would be dedicated to the FRA portion of the property.
Okay, so that's part and parcel, no pun intended, for the area that will be owned and maintained, and the FRA will be responsible for that.
Correct.
Therein lies just one more thing that needs to be worked out, I think, and not that it can't.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah,
on this board,
sure.
very limited what we can look at.
Yep.
I am going to bring your questions forward to others who are would likely be related to this in Lunenburg to get an answer of what does this process look like in Lunenburg.
Right,
I can't answer for Fitchburg,
sure.
but I can tell you what will happen here, and I can let you know at our next meeting. This isn't being voted on tonight. We're having peer review, et cetera, et cetera. And the other communities are doing their own look as well.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, sorry, the other boards, et cetera, are doing their looks. One other community, but multiple boards.
Sure.
Okay.
All right,
Great.
the bulk of the questions I had have been answered, and I'm appreciative of that. Let me just close by saying that I have reasonable concern about the way this will be handled, and I suggest that we call upon DEP, because they have been around a long time, and I'm sure that they've run into this situation at least once or twice, and ask for their advice and counsel as to how it's been handled in the past, so that we can go forward and do what we have to do. In addition, not that I don't trust the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, but I would hope, because of the situation as we talk about it now, that a deed restriction be placed on all of the property that is owned by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority as it pertains to this the total of this area, so that when I'm dead and gone in the North Cemetery, somebody will say, well, you know, this is a situation that we looked at, and these are the restrictions.
Okay.
And in closing, my last statement is this. I do not have a problem with progress. I just want to make sure that this doesn't come back to bite us. That's all. Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. And I actually want to I do have one clarifying question. Is the FRA going to be owning property in Lunenburg too? There, I didn't see exactly where the cut. It looked like it was. So.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
here's the proposed.
Yep.
line. You guys have that chunk in Bloomberg.
Yep. And so that will be FRA land up there.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I don't know. I don't have the first inkling of how the FRA operates, so I didn't know they could have land in Lunenburg. I didn't have reason to think they couldn't, other than the word is Fitchburg on the beginning. Great. That informs the questions I have. And Dave, I'll try to get the answers I can.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
Great.
I appreciate
Thank you.
The opportunity. Thank you.
All right. I am going to, I'm going to turn to the board. Sounds like we're going to be waiting on peer review. We've made that motion. We have some concerns that aren't going to directly impact our decision, but I'm happy to, I'm in Ritter enough, I'm happy to bring those forward. Do we have any other questions for the applicant tonight?
I do not.
I don't either.
You know, do we cut you off from anything else you want to tell us tonight?
No, I think I hit the cliff notes of everything that we've done.
All right, great. Jasmine, is there any other questions we should be asking or anything else we should look at tonight before we continue the public hearing?
Not off the top of my head, but if I think of any, I will certainly let you know.
Great. In that case, what's the turnaround been for Graves right now? Are we?
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I want to say I've been getting things back within 3 weeks.
I thought it was about 3. So, I mean, I could offer to continue to our next meeting. We might not have our peer review yet, so you might just want to bump out to a month, but that's...
When's the next meeting? It would be July 8th?
Next meeting would be July 14th,
14th?
and then July 28th.
Why don't we try for the 14th? Only because my wife's expecting, and the due date's the 22nd, so I'm trying to get as many things wrapped up as humanly possible.
Okay.
So why don't we try for the 14th, and if we don't have peer review, we'll kick it out to the next one.
Okay. Logan, can we get this out to Graves first thing tomorrow morning, please? Thank you. Great. Just trying to...
Yep.
That way, if it's a matter of hours, it's on your side.
Appreciate that.
Great. Okay. Anything, in that case, I would look for a motion such as to continue the public hearing for 260 Falula Road, modification to stormwater management permit and site plan approval to our meeting on July 14th, 2025 at 6:05 p.m.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Ms. Reed,
Aye.
Mr. Wilsmer,
Aye.
and I from myself.
Great.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, that is it for public hearings. Can I get a what? There's no what's out there. Okay, there we go. Again, we have a decision. I'm going to move us forward. We have 2 board discussions tonight. Master Plan Steering Committee, adjusting quorum, and MBTA Communities Act, choosing an option for the consultant's work. I am going to have us address the MBTA Communities Act first. At this point, we have 1 member of the public, 2 members of the public present, sorry. In the room, we have no one else online, but I still want to get us through that in case people are here for that, or in case people are watching at home and go, oh yeah, this is what I was waiting for, and they're going to log in. I was the only board member present at our 2 info sessions, which is not an issue. We posted them, so if there were a quorum of us, we could still talk, but not an issue. That the first one is available on YouTube. The second one was not filmed for YouTube, and I didn't, or by PAC, I didn't process that, so I didn't have Logan grab his camera. My apologies. But I will tell you what I did. I laid out for the town, here's how the MBTA communities law works. Here's how it looks for us. Here's the fact that mid-density in Massachusetts isn't necessarily mid-density in Lunenburg. Really, it's high. Most of what we think of as our high density, or maybe all of it, is mid-density development, residential development. So I also cover some concepts like by right uses, because the public kind of needs some of that info going in. Overall, I presented the 4 locations the consultants gave us, explained why White Street wouldn't work. That's the property that is age restricted and owned by or controlled by Housing Authority. Gave options, as the consultant did to us, for the 3 remaining. And the townspeople were overwhelmingly in favor. That you had over 50% in favor of let's go with paper compliance, and then with further discussion, more people wanted paper once they kind of got the feeling that family-friendly doesn't actually mean families can afford it or the developers have to make it nice for families. It just means you're not age restricting, things like that. The town was, the residents that came, we had about 20-ish at the first session, 8 or 10 at the second. And the feedback was overwhelmingly along the lines of if we bump up, if we go to Tri-Town, it was built at 17, it might be a little higher now, units per acre, but it was zoned for 22. Because it's an old 40R, the first 40R district in the state, actually. Yep, we're number 1. Go us. That was actually a thing I stress is because Lunenburg has been forward-thinking about housing, we haven't been smacked the way other communities have been smacked by these forced changes from the state. And it's worth considering what we do in the future, possibly to maintain that. There was strong sentiment in favor of if we bump Tri-Town up to 26 units per acre from 22, that makes us, again, paper compliance is the term, but the law explicitly lets us do that because we didn't wait till the last minute to do a 40R and then try to say, see, it can also be MBTA communities. We did it years, like over a decade ahead of time. That's the feedback. I personally agree with that assessment. I'm curious what you two think, because we really need to commit tonight so we can talk to I can then tell our consultant where to go.
That has, from the beginning, the Tri-Town option does seem to have checked the boxes that we want, the simplest. And I think I'm in agreement with that as kind of our primary direction.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the boards previously leaned towards that in our discussions. It seems to be the most popular trending location, so I do think Tri-Town makes the most sense.
No, again, full agreement from me. I think, talking politics for a moment, people say politics like it's a dirty word. No, that's what government is. I think it's also right now clearly the most sellable to the town. And if we don't get through town meeting, we're not in compliance, and that's when they start. It's like I explained at the presentation, it's not so much carrot and stick as take away the carrot and stick. That's when they start saying, oh, well, all these grant monies you used that we're still giving the town go away, and if we continue to be in compliance, then they have legal options to force it. So I'm in full agreement. I'm going to ask if there's any public comment. Mr. Rogers. So, Dave, would you rather I have PAC bring okay.
No, that's fine. Exercise.
Yeah. For those who do come to meetings in person, by the way, if you're ever like, it's on the second floor, that's hard, there is a lift to get up, an accessible entrance on the side, and our wonderful friends at PAC do have battery-powered microphones. We're good tonight, because Dave already came up, but thank you.
That's fine. I was one of the attendees at the senior citizen facility. And before I go any further, excuse me, I want to tell you what a great job you did.
Thank you.
It was succinct. It was just what the doctor ordered, so to say.
Dave, would you be offended if while I'm listening to you, I just go to the other room to refill my water so I can continue to speak?
Sure.
Okay. I'm listening to you.
Oh, yeah. That's what my wife says. She's in the next town over.
I can hear.
Take your time.
Thank you. Don't make saliva like I used to. If you want to hear my melodious voice, well, if you want to hear my melodious voice, you need to get your ears checked.
Yeah.
But if you want to hear my voice, I got to be drinking water.
So you are to be congratulated. You did a wonderful job. The people were there, had a great opportunity to have their questions answered. And the bottom line that I came out with was that there are provisions in the legislation that certainly Lunenburg would be able to address and be in compliance, and that's important. And notwithstanding the political aspects of the thing, which I don't want to get into right now, it made sense to suggest what you, Matt, have said is your first choice, and I agree with that. I think that's a good way to go forward. It makes us comply. Everybody's happy as they can be, and I support it 110%. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind words.
When would you be giving me the $20?
Logan said he was going to spot me, so talk to him. Okay, great. Any other public comment? Seeing none. I don't mean to belabor the point. It sounds like we're in agreement. With other locations, I would want us to have a discussion about maybe a little bit of form-based zoning or something to make it not the ugliest development. But this is an area that's already zoned this the way it is quite intentionally. I would say we don't want to go messing with it. And in reality, this is an area that is not likely to be redeveloped. I mean, you have a successful apartment complex there. You don't tear down a successful apartment complex to add a few more units. That is bad math. So any changes we're talking about are 20, 30 years down the road when everything's going to be different anyway, if those buildings are at end of life then, because this isn't a big bump. Could be done anyway now. So unless someone really wants to talk about that, I would look for a motion such as for the planning board to instruct Community Scale, our contractor on this, to draft us the bylaw that they proposed for paper compliance at Tri-Town, which is the Youngs Road option, as listed in previous presentations.
So moved.
What's that?
Option B.
Option B.
In that presentation.
From that presentation, yes. And that was a so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call. Ms. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Wilsmer.
Aye.
Aye from myself. Bang-a-rang. For those following at home, because I know there are those who did want to watch this meeting, at least after the fact, I will be reaching out to Community Scale tomorrow to let them know. They're waiting with vaguely maybe bated breath, who knows. But then over the summer, they draft the bylaw. They then bring it to the state, and the various people at the state who are supposed to, the people who can say, no, you did your bylaw wrong, because this exists, are going to look at it and make sure it passes muster. So when it comes back to us in the fall, we have a bylaw we know the state isn't going to say no to because we didn't do MBTA communities right. The planning board will see it in the fall. We will hold public hearings like we have to for any bylaw before special town meeting. And if everything goes according to plan, this, as we've discussed and as people in the town seem to approve, will be on special town meeting, which is usually around the second week in November. Assuming it gets passed there, we meet our requirements, we are set, we have it all set for the end of the year, which is when we must be, end of the calendar year, is when we must be in compliance. Great. Let's move on. Let's finish our discussions. We've got Master Plan Steering Committee, adjusting quorum. I want to make sure that I have the correct wording in front of me. That is the wrong email. Did you know that when you're typing into a text box, it helps if you're actually in the text box? Who knew? Okay. So just to give us the scope, the open meeting law defines a quorum as a simple majority of the members of a public body unless otherwise provided in a general or special law, executive order, or other authorizing provision. Gives a reference. If a quorum of a public body wants to discuss business within that body's jurisdiction, they must do so during a properly posted meeting. We are the ones who make the charter. We're the body that is in full control over the Master Plan Steering Committee, and it's our baby. We wrote the charter. We can amend it. Everyone I've talked to was surprised by this reading, but good news. Well, aside from Kim Duffy, who said, can't we do this? Yeah. And all of us were like, no, I don't think so, but no. Well, Kim, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, again, this doesn't apply to things like the planning board. We're dictated by town charter. That's different, and I think there might be some other regulations for public hearings in addition. But for an advisory board, advisory committee, that we control, we can set. I know 7 meets their current quorum.
Yep.
Tim, what's a good number?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Great. Amanda, you feel good with 5?
I am fine with 5.
Oh, fine. Sounds good. In that case, I would... Jasmine, I'm going to ask you, would the correct motion here be to amend the charter for our steering committee? I just want to make sure we get our wording right so it's nice and buttoned up tight for their meeting in a couple days.
Yes, as long as you know the specific section that you are changing. Do you happen to have that?
No, but the charter is like, this is just it's like a page, if that.
Oh, okay.
No, this isn't a big charter. It's
okay, perfect.
Yeah, okay. So.
Then yes, you would just be amending the quorum in the charter.
Okay, I would look for a motion such as that we approve amending the charter of the Master Plan Steering Committee to set the quorum for that committee at 5 individuals.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Amanda.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wilsmer. An aye from myself. That was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Isn't it nice when things actually work out?
That's really good.
That's huge. I love it. That's a big benefit. Okay, great.
Mr. Chair, just purely for, I guess, my edification and to prevent a potential snag, I know at the last meeting, Kim Duffy's suggestion was changing the quorum to 5 voting members while retaining the existing composition and having the remaining members be designated as alternates or something to that effect. Does master plan need to reorganize?
Nope.
That was an idea of if we can't actually change it, we were going to change the composition so that we only needed a quorum of 5 and the additional people were going to be like non-voting members.
And I did have a discussion with Jen Warren Diamond, the town manager, and when the topic of alternates came up, I saw the blood drain from her face. That is just a much more complex beast.
Yeah.
And then she found, no, really, it is as easy as the easiest possible solution actually works. Just set it to 5. Because, again, it's an advisory committee. They're not doing things that radiate out into hearings or bylaws, even though their role is so dang important for the town. Perfect. Ooh, I love it when things work out. Now, I moved us off of the decisions. Now, the decision for 443 West Townsend Road, special permit for the common driveway. Do we have that decision in our files, or did that not come through?
I don't think that came through. I'm going to defer to
Okay.
Jasmine on that.
Now, Jasmine, I believe you wrote that decision, but I think it got lost in translation to us.
Okay, I can, when I get my computer back,
Okay, well, what I'll
be
do,
more than happy to resend that to you. I think I can probably get into it on one of my kids' computers later tonight, if that's okay.
I'm just gonna I don't think we need to worry about, we can just sign it next meeting, right? Is this gonna screw anything up for them?
I mean, only in as much as they're going to have to wait those 2 weeks, and then there's already the 20-day statutory appeal period built on top of that. They're already looking at some thick time, and I hate to delay
Okay,
and things like that when it's avoidable, but...
okay. So Jasmine, do you have the ability to send that over right now, or is that not available to you tonight?
I can certainly send it to you tonight.
Okay, if you could send that over right now, Logan can pop that onto the drive for us, and we can take a look and get that squared away.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have access to it right now. I don't have my computer right now still.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's understood. There's technical issues. It will have to wait, then it has to wait till our next meeting. I don't think we have a solution.
Yeah, it ultimately depends on the board's, individual board's comfortability. I have seen it happen on other boards like the Conservation Commission, where the staff will ask them for just the signature page for that given decision. And I get logically that kind of defeats the point of reviewing the in-depth legalese to make sure it reflects the motion and vote. You could take it as a measure of, the trust.
No, with my own sincere apologies to the applicant, I'm not comfortable doing that. I am not looking. unless the members of the board insisted, and I am legally required to accept the motion, I would not be looking for that motion at this time. I'm not personally comfortable signing the signature page without doing a review of the piece first.
Agreed.
We're doing what we can. Again, my sincere apologies to the applicant. We are, this is the challenge of municipal government right now, and we are doing our best for you. Okay. Abutting community notices. Logan, is there anything we really need to know?
No, not off the top of my head. I don't think we received, trying to think if there's anything we would have gotten from Fishburg relating to 260 Falula. I don't think we did get anything.
Okay, great. Yeah, do please let us know if that comes through, because we may want to review that as a board in more detail, depending. But as much as it does impact us, or just have a clue. Okay, committee reports. Master Plan Steering Committee.
Our next meeting is this Wednesday.
And I hear you'll have an easier time making quorum.
It's going to be great.
I mean, don't actually raise the roof. This roof is very old. It is in place. Let's leave it. Metaphorically raise the roof. Okay, Open Space Committee.
Have not had a meeting since the one we had here.
Okay, Municipal Building Design Committee is Mr. Allison. He is not present. Capital Planning Committee has not met. Welcome to summertime. You'll notice a pattern. Economic Development Committee has not met since our last meeting. I don't know the next meeting date off the top of my head. Stormwater Task Force.
Meeting will be this Thursday.
Nice. Montechusett Regional Planning Commission.
We have not met since the last meeting, but I did want to mention this Wednesday at noon, they are having a lunch and learn for federal funding cuts. If anyone is interested, I have the information. Mr. Brenner, you might have already gotten the emails. I think you still get the MRPC emails. But if anyone is interested in them, Wednesday the 25th at noon.
Well, that's one thing I don't have to bring up because it was that.
There you go.
Their lunch and learns, by the way, this is where we're talking to a niche group because their lunch and learns are directed at elected officials and town employees who work within this purview. But for those who do have that kind of role and haven't attended their lunch and learns, they're very valuable. It's a chance to sit, chat, hear what's happening in other municipalities and what's been learned, in this case about the federal funding cuts, which keep on happening. Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee.
We have not met since our last meeting.
All right. Minutes approval for our June 9th meeting.
I unfortunately did not have time to finish those prior to this meeting.
All right. We will approve them at our next meeting. Meeting schedule. Yeah, we meet at 6 p.m. at Town Hall unless otherwise noted. Upcoming meetings, our anticipated meetings are July 14th and July 28th. In addition, again, I'm going to be coordinating with the other members afterwards just to double check calendars, but I believe we will also have a meeting, and it will be posted if that's the case, on July 1st to co-meet with the Select Board. Because, again, we have, in my opinion, a qualified applicant interested in joining the planning board for a spell. Okay. That's everything there. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. Board comment. I want to, first, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Ms. Jasmine Farinacci, who has stepped in as our interim planner. Your input has been super valuable when we've chatted before the meeting and at tonight's meeting. I know we will be in regular contact.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for all the technical difficulties this evening.
We'll make it work.
And I'm not sure how your select board would feel, but I could certainly have the shared driveway decision by the July 1st if you felt that was something they would be amenable to you adding to the agenda, either before or after. I don't know. It's different every town, so I have no idea how your select board likes to work.
I don't think I cannot imagine a world where us sitting down and reading, they won't want us taking up their time. They go late, is the short answer.
Okay, no worries.
So I think that will have to wait for our next standard board meeting. But I really, since I'm not actually going to get to wax poetic about him in this context, otherwise, I want to be clear that losing Logan O'Connell is an absolute blow for the town of Lunenburg. To have someone coming in, someone young, energetic, bright, who wants to tackle complex problems and has the ability to do that, is a rarity. I'm not surprised that there are others competing for his work because it's top-notch. But frankly, if he's going to be going somewhere, I'm glad it's to a company that is actually about making municipal government better, because he has in 1 year done a tremendous amount to help Lunenburg. Logan, I'm going to say thank you very much. And for the few of us in the room, I'm going to give you an applause, even though it's just a handful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll remind you that if you're not working for the town, those talent bank forms are real great. No pressure, do it. Okay. Any other board comment or concerns? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Oh, wait.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Thank God. Well, I guess it doesn't matter when, but you need to sign these in ours.
Okay. Tim and I can sign them.
Yep.
They don't have to be signed during a meeting, though.
No.
Yeah, because Amanda's going to have to come in to sign it eventually regardless.
I'll come in tomorrow morning and sign.
Okay, great. So we've had a motion to adjourn and second. I'm going to have that vote because this doesn't impact it. Amanda, I'm going to ask you to stay on the line just so we can do some schedule coordination to make sure Tuesday works, okay?
And 4.
Great. But again, that's not an open meeting thing. Okay. Motion to adjourn, moved and seconded. Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to say your name first. It's a roll call. Let me call your roll. Mr. Wilsmer.
Aye.
And an aye from myself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us at the Lunenburg Planning Board. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.